So what is the definition of EMI? Well, essentially there's a number of components within the MES space, and that includes the planning and scheduling, the workflow and the process execution, and also the quality management and track and trace. But in addition to that, the area that we're focusing on is the area that integrates all of this data and everything that you've been hearing about, but it actually gets the information. It's the information that people need in the manufacturing environment. And it includes the data contextualization, the visualization, the analytics, it's everything all together, and also the dashboards that make actionable, that you can make actionable decisions from. To me, it's the heart and the soul of manufacturing. So what is it? It's the integration, the aggregation, and the management. It's the data contextualization and modeling. It's the data quality management. Is a good validator, and that's a real big factor, especially in the manufacturing environment, and in other environments too, as we've been hearing. Analytics and the analysis, and it's also about the dashboards and virtualization. So we're looking at, well, what are some of the challenges? Well, the challenge of EMI is really, how do you integrate all of these many different data sources? You have spreadsheets and all kinds of data. You have the unstructured, as we heard about, structured data, streaming data, and one of the areas that is going to be a big area, I think, in the future, is the area of video, because as you can take in more data and integrate all of these different silos of information, you're going to be able to use video right in your plane. You can actually see what's going on from anywhere in the world. So all of these different types of machines and information, and this is what people are talking about, the DCS, the PLC, all of, can you hear me? Okay, the DCS, the PLC, all of this information is like extremely important. And one of the things that I'm always hearing from people is, I spend way too much time looking for the right information. And I'll bet you if I ask that, how many people here do, I bet most people would agree with me. I do it, I know myself, and I know in a plant, it's even a lot more work to find what you're really looking for. And that's what EMI is all about. So some of the technology drivers that we're seeing for EMI include all of the things, like Internet of Things. I mean, that is such a big driver. The smart connected, the new devices, the big data, that's what we're seeing. The visualization is getting much, much better. The ease of use tools, and you really have to be easy to use. We're talking about this. They have to be intuitive because you don't want to use it. And cloud computing is also another area, and we are seeing people putting information into the cloud. Having a system and platform that's open and secure, and being able to use that to add more information to and integrate the information. And it's also about innovation. Innovation in terms of being able to respond to client needs, the customer experience, and really more. So we do track the MES space by revenue. We also track the EMI space, but I had done this for the we call it software as a service to the cloud. We are seeing an uptick in the actual data that's coming from the cloud. So what types of data are people deploying to the cloud? Well, they're deploying all types of data, but mostly it's historical data, age data, things that maybe they don't think it has intellectual property, although people are deploying email a lot, and that has a lot of intellectual property, as I know everybody in this room would agree with. A lot of people are keeping some data on site, and people have said to me, well, mission critical will always be on site, as we have to have it, it's a safety issue, and so on. But it will vary by the type of process, the plan, the complexity, and so on. So there will be some variations as to what people are doing. So the other thing is we have the connected enterprise. You've seen the slides, the Internet of Everything, the Internet of Things. Everything's being connected. We're living in a connected world. And as I said earlier, EMI is the intelligence and the information, and it's the heart and soul of really what you need to get. It's the intelligence that's really going to tell you and give you the insightful decisions that you need to make a decision as to what to do. And I don't care if it's cognitive learning or anything else, you really do need it. But it's about, the growth in data is really fueled by the Internet of Things, the smart, 3D, where they've seen a lot of virtual reality, manufacturers, websites, graphics, all the data generated from the exploding number of devices and plants. It's offline, online data, structured data, unstructured data, it's real-time data. But that's really what we're talking about. So what is big data? You know, and people for a while were saying, well, you know, in business we have big data, but really if you look at a plant, you have 100,000 points per second, which is 6 million points per minute, which is 360 million points per hour, 9 billion points per day, so that's 3 trillion points per year. That's a lot of data in one refinery. The thing is, you may not save all that data. And most people don't, because they just didn't have the space, it was hard, it took too much, it was too much costly to save all this data. So they take some of that data, and some of it they save, some of it they don't. But essentially, it's probably all good, valid data, which data they really need. You can't go back and reproduce that, but they still have a lot of data. And a lot of people will say to me, we've collected data like crazy. We just don't do anything. And that's the heart of the matter, because a lot of times there is a lot of good value in the data. And as my colleague Rick Reese said to me, there's a lot of gold in that data. So what are some of the types of information that we're seeing around manufacturing intelligence? Well, it's the real-time visibility into manufacturing operations, the data, the quality, the resources. It's the KPIs, and those are very important. And we have the analytics and the integration and contextualization. So what I'd like to do is give you a few quick results from a survey that I had taken about the trends and best practices. And I would appreciate if any of the end users in the room would take the survey, because this is preliminary. I've had about 40 people take it. I'd like to get a lot more people so I can really say these are what I think are the best practices out there today, because I think that's really important to see what people are doing. So what are some of the top drivers for using EMI? Well, the number one driver was improving process visibility. Number two was faster decision making. I mean, these are all things you think of. There was a lot more choices, but these were the top ones. And also number three was getting value from the data that's already collected. And that's, I think, is really, these are the heart and soul of what EMI is all about. So one of the things we noticed is that there's been a big increase in the last few years, and I started doing a survey about 4 years ago, and I asked people how many users were using it, and there were definitely a lot less. So today, 40% of the users are accessing they have over 500 users accessing EMI. So that's a lot. As far as multi-plant applications, there's definitely an increase in multi-plant applications. So there's an increasing growth of EMI, and that's the thing that people are doing. They're implementing it in one location originally. We had more people at the low end, and now we're seeing enterprise-wide EMI applications. So folks, really, I think to be competitive in this global world, you need to really look at EMI. So we also looked at the number of data sources. We're seeing a large increase in the number of data sources. 35% of the people said that they have more than 10 data sources. I think I have this on autonomous operations, so it keeps flipping on me. But anyway, and I'm going to talk about that in part two. So if you come back, there's all kinds of new results I'm going to show you in part two. But I asked people what they're spending in EMI, and this varied quite a bit. There's people that are spending less than $500,000 to a lot of people that are spending well over $2 million. And it depends on the function, the complexity of the process, and some of it really comes down to corporate culture. So corporate culture is really important, because how people deal with data, what they really think they can get, and value from the data. So value, and I can talk about some of the benefits that I asked folks what kind of benefits they're getting in different areas, and they told us. So if you want to see that, come to part two, and that's on the visualization, the analytics. And the data scientists, we hear a lot about this, we heard about it this morning, and people said Harvard Business Review 2012, and I think this was because of Moneyball, but they said it's the sexiest job of the 21st century. Personally, I don't think it's that sexy, but they said it's a sexy job. So anyway, in Glassdoor, I heard this last month, said that it's the #1 job in America. So it's data scientists, and there's all kinds of positions. I looked them up on Google, and these are all some of the positions that came out, and the chief data officer, I think it was mentioned this morning, is one of those positions.
Quick question, if business intelligence analyst, is business intelligence the same as EMI?
No, it's different. Well, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we can do the question. We'll do the question at the end, but I will mention that really quickly. But one of the things we noticed is the data scientists is actually increasing exponentially. So people think they need data scientists because they believe there's a lot of value in the data. So it's really, really important. It's growing at a rate of about 22%. Well, I looked up chemical engineers because I'm a chemical engineer, and I said, well, what rate is the chemical engineering growing at? Because I was curious. There's 70,000 chemical engineers in the world, and they're growing at a rate of, I think they said 2%. So I said, well, geez, they must not think it's important. But the message I have to the business people is, we still need to understand mass balances. You still need to know thermodynamics. You need to understand the process and the thermodynamics of that process. So my message is, data scientists are great, but we still need engineers, and really EMI is the tool that's going to help everybody to get the information that they need. So intelligence and analytics seems to be the new mantra, and there is a lot of value in using intelligence, and some people are still taking a lot of that data, they're not doing anything, and they're really putting money down the drain, essentially is what I said. But instead what you can do is you can take that information, you can visualize it, and make it into KPIs that are important to the specific individuals that are viewing it, and that can give you the data that gives you the value that brings the return on investment. And it does bring a return on investments. From everything I've seen, folks, people are getting a lot of value out of their data with EMI. So EMI is now, really. It's part of the future, but it's also now. It's connected, we have open and secure, people are making their platforms more secure. It's about the real-time insights and actions, and it's about increasing performance and increasing efficiency. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much, and what I'd like to do is introduce our first speaker today, and he's with us from Iberdrola Renewables.